What if I told you that during a fishing competition, one diver leapt into the water expecting to find fish, but instead found the greatest catch of his career, a Ju-87 Stuka dive bomber lying in plain sight in the shallow water? Well, this is absolutely true, and here is the story. In the spring of 1941, as the Nazi regime is expanding faster than anyone could have expected, German forces are still extremely confident and boast the most advanced military in the world. In every battle that they have undertaken thus far, they have essentially destroyed their opponents with ease. One of the main reasons for this success has been the Luftwaffe's domination of the air, and in particular, the lethal bombing ability of their premier bomber, the Junkers Ju-87 Stuka. While it would eventually be overtaken by faster Allied fighters in the later years of the war, in these early years it was a dominant force over Europe, striking fear into the hearts of soldiers and civilians alike with the legendary Jericho trumpets, diving on targets with devastating results. And now, in April of 1941, the next country on Hitler's list is Yugoslavia. But for this battle, he will have some help from his own ally, the Italians. In the months prior to this battle, the Royal Italian Air Force had requested and received around 100 Stukas to add to their arsenal. These Stukas, operated by the Italians, saw a fair amount of success. In the opening salvo of this battle, the Ju-87s of the Italian 239 Squadron sank multiple Yugoslav ships in the waters around Italy and Croatia. And this is where we would see the aircraft at the center of this incredible story. On Saturday, April 12th of 1941, 3 Ju-87 Stukas of the Royal Italian Air Force 239 Squadron would take off for a planned strike on a Yugoslav harbor. Their specific targets in this mission, according to records, were actually the small naval vessels and float planes that were in the waters here. But in this raid, as they approached the harbor, anti-aircraft fire lit up the sky around them. There was an intense barrage of tracers and flak, and unfortunately, the Ju-87 was a fairly large and slow target in the air. After striking their target, one of the bombers would take the first hit, breaking apart and going nose down into the ground below. Immediately, the leader turned for home and tried to evade the artillery that was firing so heavily upon them. In just a few minutes, he was safe, but realized that in the chaos, he had been separated from the other remaining Stuka. Neither the pilot nor the gunner knew their fate definitively, but this typically meant that they had taken a hit and been shot down. So this final bomber, flying alone, landed back at base and reported back that one of his wingmen had been shot down and that the other was missing in action. In wartime, no one could devote too much time to following one single aircraft, and so this is where the story would end, unresolved for the next 7 decades. Fast forward to the year 2014. Off the coast of a small island in Croatia named Zrje, it was a beautiful sunny day. In the crystal clear waters of the sea here, it is one of the best locations in the world for harpoon fishing. And on this date, a competition was being held. Like normal, for an event like this, the competitors dove down into the waters all around the island, hunting for a winning catch. But this time, the best find would not be a fish. As one of the divers swam down to the bottom of the water, he saw something, an aircraft clearly resting on the bottom of the ocean, nearly fully intact. Immediately, in the hours that followed, aviation historians were called in to investigate, and it was confirmed that this was a Ju-87 Stuka. Upon researching, it was also determined that this was almost certainly the missing Stuka of the 3-plane flight that took off on April 12th of 1941. What likely happened is that this plane was hit by the same artillery, but instead of taking a fatal hit, and going down in a ball of flames. The pilot of this plane was able to keep the damaged aircraft airborne long enough to get away from the combat zone and enemy fire. Then, after flying to a safer area, located a shallow and calm area of water along the coast of a small island to safely bring the aircraft down. This feat is made even more impressive by the fact that the Stuka is a fixed landing gear plane, making a water landing like this very difficult. To be honest, I struggled to figure out how a fixed gear plane would be able to make a water landing without killing the crew, but this is what multiple sources have stated in this occurrence. But nonetheless, it was brought down, and apparently both of the crew members were able to survive and swim to safety. The plane, however, slowly floated to the bottom of the shallow area and came to rest peacefully on the ocean floor. Upon examination, the engine, being by far the heaviest part of the aircraft, was also ripped off at some point during the landing. This was made clear by the fact that it was a good distance away from the main wreckage. With the crystal clear water, much of the aircraft can be seen in great detail in this footage, and it is incredibly well preserved. The instrument panel, stick, and many other parts of the aircraft are clearly visible. Unfortunately, however, in the months that followed this discovery, news of the wreck quickly spread, and because of its shallow depth, illegal collectors were able to get to the wreckage, and multiple parts of the plane were damaged or stolen. Because of this, diving on the site was banned. The footage you see here was taken shortly after the wreckage was first discovered. This is the most pristine condition that the bomber was ever in. According to the reports that I have been able to find, the flight stick as well as many other parts of the cockpit and plane have been removed by thieves. But the bulk of the aircraft has been left intact. Many have called on local officials to close the site off completely or to try and salvage the aircraft, but these requests were declined, and it was decided that a diving site was the best option for the location. 1 year later, it was reallowed under the condition that it was operated by organized groups and under license, with touching and artifact gathering strictly outlawed. Being that this is one of the only intact Stukas in the world, it is one of the most prized wrecks ever found. It is certainly something that any World War II history enthusiast should consider visiting and respectfully admiring for the priceless story that it offers. For more World War II stories like this, join my free newsletter below and comment what you think of this find. See you next time.